there, and welcome to Force Talk, a Star Wars podcast. We're back! Yes, we're back, and we're going to be talking about all things Star Wars, of course. Coming up in the show, we're going to be covering the latest Star Wars news. Again, there's not loads of it, but we've got a few interesting tidbits that we can chat about. Also, we're going to be unveiling a couple more of our interviews from Star Wars Fan Fun Day. And we're going to be discussing a much beloved character from the prequel trilogy in Canon Fodder. So let's get on with the show. It's time for Star Wars news, and we've picked up a couple of things for the first time from the StarWarsUnderworld.com. First of all, now, you've got to take this with a pinch of salt because it could be faked, you never know, but apparently some concept art for the new Han Solo film has surfaced. And what we've got here is, well, what looks like an Imperial ship. It's like an Imperial transport of some kind. We can also see a speeder codenamed the Bumper Car, which includes a concept sketch of Alden Ehrenreich. Are we getting that right now? Are we getting the pronunciation correct for it now? Anyway.
I don't think you can.
Whatever.
Alden.
As Harrison Ford described him, the young fella who's playing Han Solo. That will do. Yes, they've done a concept sketch of him next to one of the vehicles, and they've kind of dressed him in the Empire Strikes Back long sleeve. So whether he's wearing the waistcoat or the long sleeve, we don't know this time, and it is waistcoat by the way, especially if you're from Lancashire. So, yeah, what do we think of this stuff? I mean, obviously you can see that this particular one here is an Imperial transport because we've got a couple of stormtroopers sat in there. That, in fact, looks like it's, I don't know, that looks like it's like on set plus like a half mat or something, do you think?
Yeah, it's tricky to say, really.
Yeah.
It just looks like a dropship of some sort.
A dropship, yeah, could well be. Because it's got these big, long...
Protruding arms.
But they do seem to raise like a laminar shuttle.
Ah, right, yeah. And that looks... Yeah, again, it looks like part of these could be a set. Well, they are indeed, because you can see all the woodwork there. So at least they're going practical again with this film, which is always good. And this ship that the young fellow who's playing Han Solo is stood next to, do we think that's Han Solo's ship before he gets the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah, I suppose it could be. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because I think it's already been said that this film is going to show how he got the Falcon off Lando. So he probably was driving around flying around some terrible
piece of scrap
Ford Fiesta type ship beforehand.
A Ford car.
Yeah.
Ford being the operative word, of course. Yeah, so, I mean, we didn't actually really get into a discussion, I don't think, about... Well, we did get into a discussion when we shot an episode of this that nobody will ever see. Yes,
we were all naked.
That was the pilot. Yeah, I think we did have a discussion about our feelings on the whole Han Solo film, but that's not actually been put out into the ether yet. So, what are our feelings in general about the Han Solo film, sparked by looking at these vehicles?
Well, we've got D23 just around the corner, and it's been rumoured that there's going to be showing some footage maybe, because it's due to be released in May of next year rather than December, which I think is crazy. Like, just keep to this December slot. December is now Star Wars. I don't know why you changed back to May, but
yeah,
hey ho.
It's not about the fat guy in the suit anymore. It's about Star Wars.
Exactly. So there's rumours that they're going to be showing some footage from the new Han Solo film there, but I know definitely you are. I'm not sure how you stand on it, but I'm like really nervous about this, because why would you mess with Han Solo? Why would you do it? Recast? Why would you recast it? Like, just do it as some animation or something.
It's a very tricky one. I mean, you all know my feelings on Han Solo being played by anyone else other than Harrison Ford.
I do, but
yeah, I mean,
the internet doesn't. Go ahead.
Right. Well,
Paddy rant. Go.
obviously, well, I'm the biggest Harrison Ford fan in the universe. When I first saw Star Wars at like 1 or 2, straight away I was like, Han Solo, that's my favourite character, and that obviously passed all the way through. Now, I think people would still have been scared about this new film because obviously it's a recast. But had there been that gap from the end of Return of the Jedi and there'd been no Han Solo and then they did an origin story, that might have been a bit less jarring. But the fact that like Harrison Ford's only just returned as like older Han Solo, and now we've got somebody else playing him, it's a bit of a tricky one because it seems to be quite, well, because it is very fresh in the memory.
Would you prefer, for instance, for them to do to Harrison Ford much like what they did in Civil War, Captain America film, where they made a young Robert Downey Jr.? Would you like him to CGI young Harrison Ford up?
I think that would be pretty cool, but again,
like, why is he running so funny? It looks like he's been in several plane crashes.
I mean, how the guy is walking around anyway, he's had that many injuries on his legs over the years.
Yeah.
Like, he what did he do? His leg in on one leg on Raiders of the Lost Ark, his ACL. He did the other one on like The Fugitive. He'd done his back on Temple of Doom. He'd broken his legs again on Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and he survived a plane crash. I mean, I'm convinced the guy's invincible.
Yeah,
he must be. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is as well, and we may have mentioned this before, is the fact that he kind of refused to say that he was done with the character as well. So it was on Kimmel or whatever where they do this thing, I finally got to kill Han Solo, yay, and they were like, right, well, that's you done with Star Wars. And he was like, he did that thing where he does the zipping of his mouth and all that. So, does that mean we're perhaps going to get like a really ham-fisted young Indiana Jones lame intro to this new Han Solo film where he goes, this is a sacred piece of relic of my people's past, and he goes, here's a sacred relic of my past, and he pulls a lightsaber out of a thing and sits in a chair and starts playing it and goes, this reminds me of the time I was doing the Kessel Run with it's him and Lando sat together, yeah, playing a game of cards, and he's like, do you remember how I won the Millennium Falcon from you all those years ago? Yeah, I hope it's not like that, don't you? What would you like to see out of this film?
I want to see how he got his blood stripes with this cortex, or even how he met Chewie. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. That would be interesting, because obviously we know Chewie's like, what is he, 200 years old when we're in A New Hope?
Yeah.
So...
And he was seen in Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how was he there with Tarful? Can't remember.
Well, I've heard Chewie was a prisoner, wasn't he? He was being used as a slave, and Han Solo rescued him, and that's how For Life was set up. Whether that's still canon or not, I don't know. Maybe he was working in a Kashyyyk supermarket, and Han Solo was just like, I'm having some problem with my car. Can you help give my little crappy spaceship a push? And
went to RSPCA, picked himself a string.
Yeah, maybe that's how it works. Who knows?
Star Wars RSPCA. I mean, and could they had a conversation like his first, maybe Han Solo's first exposure to the Force is just having a chat with Chewie about the time he was hanging out with Yoda on Kashyyyk and destroying lots of CGI stormtroopers.
Han Solo didn't really believe in the Force, did he? Because I was watching New Hope again last night.
Yeah.
For the billionth time. And he was
never seen it.
Ancient religions,
yeah,
and all that
all
jazz.
pure religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side.
Didn't believe in any of it, so I don't think he had any encounter with the Force prior to Obi-Wan.
And he didn't actually meet Yoda at all in the films.
No, he didn't. He never did meet Yoda. So but we'll just have to wait and see. Let's say I'm willing to wait to see what happens. But
well, you're gonna have to, aren't you?
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. But
we've got our fingers crossed.
Got our fingers crossed.
A good film.
Just got a lot of fear about this particular film, but we shall see what happens. Let's move on. Another article from StarWarsUnderground.com. Ian McDormand recorded lines for season 4.
I'm just going to stop you there. It's Ian McDermott.
Sorry, Ian McDermott. I always say McDormand. I don't know.
I know you do. I got that on the
It just
last
feels
episode.
like it just feels like the natural way to say it. Has recorded lines for season 4 of Star Wars Rebels.
That's a rumour, isn't it? So Sam Witwer may be out of a job because he normally does it. Well, he did it for the Clone Wars. He's also voiced Darth Maul in this show, who, well, probably shouldn't say because it's getting into spoilers territory, but yeah.
Well,
probably give the game away there. Maybe cut that bit.
it was kind of strange that they didn't use, what's the name of the guy who did the voice for Darth Maul originally? He's a British comedian.
Seferinowicz
Yeah,
or something.
Serafinowicz. My turn.
Why is everybody in Star Wars so hard to pronounce?
I know, it's true. So yeah, I mean, it's that'd be pretty cool if we get, because we've had obviously we've had James Earl Jones.
Yep.
Come in and do Darth Vader. Who else have we had like returning Rebels?
We've got Warwick Davis coming back next season, but not playing Ewok. Obviously, he's playing Rook.
Yeah.
So that's not really return as such. It's just him getting used in another part.
The actress who played Mos Mothma in Rogue One. She's playing Rogue One.
That's right.
Oh, Rogue One? She's playing Mos Mothma in Rebels as well.
Oh right,
Yeah,
okay.
right.
And didn't we have Billy D?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Back as Lando.
it gives it all nice consistency if it's not like a slightly jarring, dodgy voice, doesn't it? So if that's true, then great stuff. But it might come in line with all the fact that they were really pushing. They seem to be pushing him quite heavily during the celebration, didn't they? Like they were talking about the scene between him and Anakin a lot, and all that stuff. So
Would be nice to see more, because the Emperor is my favourite character of all of Star Wars. I'd like to see an Emperor standalone film, personally, but I don't think.
What, of how he killed Plagueis?
Well,
You're
just
obsessed with Plagueis as well.
yeah, I just like Siths.
yeah.
Just the best.
Oh, how lovely. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens, but that'd be pretty cool if
I want to see if he wore anything underneath that cloak. Look out! Face.
What if it was like Total Recall and he just got like a weird little guy in there?
Like Plagueis was actually.
Yeah, Plagueis is like in there as part of him. Like,
Guys, calm down.
we're getting excited now. Just so he can open his thing and it can go.
Hello.
Open your mind, like that. I don't know why he's doing that.
Oh.
Maybe Princess Leia's in front of him.
Wow, this is getting weird.
Yeah, it's getting really weird.
Let's just.
But to be fair, you brought the dark stuff in last time.
It was just the
discussing
cybernetic wang.
Yeah, the cybernetic wang. So I don't know how we get into these pickles, but there you go. Right. So let's leave the news at that unnatural closure point. And we've got before we get out of this, we've got a little competition to announce. So a friend of mine from college, he has the largest Star Wars group on Xbox. Okay, so it's called Club Star Wars. Now, what he wants to do is he's very kindly been sharing the show for us. So we're running a little competition here, and it's kind of like twofold. So basically what we're trying to do is draw attention to him. He's drawing some attention to us. So the contest is you are required to design an original Star Wars themed piece of artwork for the club background. Now the artwork has to be 1080 by 1080p HD definition to be uploaded as the background. The contestant is required to supply their Xbox gamer tag when submitting their artwork for identification. The artwork is to be emailed to clubstarwars@outlook.com. We're probably going to, it'll be, I think, maybe 2 to 3 months we're going to give this, just to give people time to create the artwork and all that kind of stuff.
So we're going to have to mention this weekly then.
We're going to mention it weekly, yes. And, well, or
Or just put it
Bi-weekly.
on.
No.
not bi-weekly, fortnightly.
Fortnightly.
After we said that last time, that was me. And we'll discuss the sort of final entries, and we'll pick one, and hopefully it will be announced the winner by a Star Wars celebrity of some description.
Ooh.
So, crack on. And that's from our mate Matt Wally. So we'd like to say thanks very much to him. Keep up the good work. Next up, Cannon Fodder. And we'll leave it up to Nick to tell you who the character is.
Jar Jar Binks is the most intriguing and expandable character in the entire Star Wars. Oh, okay, I'm just kidding. Jar Jar is a tough sell, I get that, so let's be a little bit more realistic. Mace Windu lives. According to Samuel L. Jackson, who made compelling points that many Jedi have survived amputations via lightsaber, and have also seemed to have no issues surviving incredibly long falls. And even George Lucas didn't mind the idea. But in case he managed to survive being turned into Windu paste upon impact on the ground, I'd like to propose a story in which Mace Windu survived by perhaps landing on a passing-by speeder, scaring the living excrement out of some hapless alien who kindly goes on to help heal Master Windu, and then creates a human Gungan hybrid by splicing the limbs of Jar Jar... Oh, okay, I'll stop. But seriously, Mace Windu was one of the most disappointingly actualized characters in the prequel trilogy. He, after all, was the main voice in the Jedi Council against the training of Anakin. He should have epitomized everything Anakin found disillusioning about the dogmatic, cold, and unfeeling approach of the Jedi. The Jedi Master should have been a true underhanded antagonist to Anakin, while still operating in a manner that he could justify to his peers in the Council. Mace Windu had some interesting and rare traits for a Jedi. For instance, he possessed highly advanced skills in both his mastery of the Force and as a lightsaber combatant. As a duelist, Windu favoured Form 7, also known as Vapad. The seventh form was considered the most aggressive and unpredictable version of the art of lightsaber combat. Vapad was explained as being a state of the mind rather than just a fighting style, allowing the wielder to channel his own inner darkness into the duel and accept the fury of the opponent. If the styles are compared, some have claimed that Kylo Ren has a similar fighting style to Mace Windu, and this has led people to believe that Windu is Snoke. I frankly find it to be an unappealing and unattractive theory, however, as I have previously let my love for the Plagueis Snoke theory be known, and I won't waste any of your valuable time discussing it further. But if you want to YouTube it to learn more, there's definitely some interesting stuff in that, but personally I feel that counter-arguments carry more weight. There's still space for the anthology films to right some of the wrongs of the prequel trilogy, and it would be nice to see a live-action Star Wars film set in the Clone Wars that can fill in some of the gaps of characterization and actually make us feel for the smaller characters that get wiped out rather unceremoniously in the prequel trilogy. Wouldn't it be nice to see how Mace Windu reacts to an average day in the Clone Wars? Make us actually feel for the characters so we can see how a peaceful guardian is transformed into the role of a general, and how would that affect him internally? And if he did survive the duel with the Emperor, how would that change the man? We saw how Yoda became eccentric, quirky, and downright silly at times in The Empire Strikes Back after years in isolation. So how would the stoic Windu be affected by the change in the public opinion of the Jedi in the newly formed Empire? Would he be able-bodied after falling from such a height, and if so, presumably he wouldn't be able to seek medical attention because the entire Empire had to kill him. How would he get off planet? Where would he run to? And what adventures could happen along the way? And how can Jar Jar Binks be awkwardly shoehorned in for the purposes of a cheap gag? Let's open it up to the panel.
So I'll tell you what, my first point is, why did we not get to find out what was in Mace Windu's briefcase?
I think you're thinking of the wrong film.
Oh, you see, there's no... And why did Dex not serve, big kahuna burgers in that diner that Obi-Wan Kenobi went into?
Oh, it's because Bamford is a filthy animal. Mace Windu does not eat filthy animals.
Big Bantha burger. So, no. Yeah. So, Mace Windu. Lead on.
Well, what do you guys think? What potential do you see for Mace Windu in any Star Wars medium? Like, do you think he's worth fleshing out in animation, in films? Or where would you like to see him? Because it's like, I get that saying a Mace Windu film would be a tough sell, but then again, it is Samuel L. Jackson, and he is a draw.
Yeah, I think they could quite easily get away with making it a live action film. The only issue with doing it as around the Clone Wars period thing would be, obviously he has aged somewhat. I mean, I know he does age very well anyway, but you know, it wouldn't quite match up, I don't think, unless they did some digital work on him. So I think the fact that he hinted at, it was at Star Wars Celebration, wasn't it, during the 40th anniversary panel, that he said, hey, how about bringing Mace Windu back?
I think he's said it in a few places, actually, because I know that he had already said it before Celebration as well. So.
Okay. So I mean, it's
you're putting a face, Sarah. Have you got an opinion?
I just think he's milking it. He's going to try and milk it.
How so?
He just wants to be back in the Star Wars universe so desperately. He's going to mention it at every single panel he's going to be on until he's on it again.
Yeah. And you would if you were Samuel L. Jackson.
I would if I'm a beautiful chocolate man.
Well, you've got a lot of periods to sort of cover in the Star Wars universe now. We've got like 3 eras, haven't we? We've got the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and now the sequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. He's not old enough to be in the sequel trilogy, I don't think. So that'd be weird if he started cropping up, unless they put him in a lot of makeup. Mm-hmm. And even then, you've got to ask the question, where would he fit? And I know we discussed the whole Snoke thing in the video, but I just don't think that's likely, or it'd make any sense at all.
No,
so
it's a little bit. I think you raised a point about why that would be weird as well.
Yeah.
The fact that, and the fact that Snoke is voiced by a white man, and it's kind of a bit of a space Michael Jackson thing going on there. So why would he all of a sudden, become a white guy? It's a bit like the whole sort of Chasing Amy discussion about the vestige of the beautiful black vestige of Darth Vader being totally screwed by the fact that he's an old white guy inside. It's like it's a little bit like that. So I don't like the Snoke theory at all. So let's you say that it's daft. But I mean, like I was saying, in terms of period, I mean, I think it would be interesting if he just turned up in the new set of films. But again, I think it would be hard to give him enough space, and he'd be underused again. So
I think that was one of the problems of prequels, is that like his character just didn't really do anything significant like in the films. So
apart from piss off Anakin.
And some people, that's the thing, like that should have been played on more. Like we could have done without maybe him cutting off Jango Fett's head. Like obviously that was a thing that Boba Fett went to try and avenge it in the Clone Wars apparently, but even still, I think we needed a bad guy in the Jedi Council to make us realise, like, hey, why is Anakin getting so frustrated? Because everybody was portrayed as being so altruistic and nice and good, but
yeah, they did need to be a bit more antagonism though. Didn't there, to make it more interesting.
I think there'd be a lot more pettiness in for Jedi Council. Like everybody's like, well, you may be powerful, but I've been doing this for a long time. You get that in all walks of life, don't you? Like for people who try and sort of dismiss talent for experience, and sometimes talent does win overall.
Mm-hmm. So they keep telling us.
Yeah. Like, I mean, not to fault experience. Experience is important, but who knows? Maybe Anakin knew better in some regards than Mace. But we never got to see any of this because it was only talked about rather than actually showing us.
Yeah, that's very true. There is quite a bit of that missed opportunity talking about something that's happened and actually getting a chance to see, isn't it? When the time periods have moved on. I mean, what era do you think you could fit a story of him in? Mace Windu coming back?
Rebels, something like that.
Yeah.
Animated universe.
Even still, though, we've only got one season left of Rebels, and to introduce a big Jedi like Mace Windu would be really distracting from the main plot. So, I think it'd be too weird to introduce Sam Jackson in Rebels.
Then I don't see
at
any
this
place.
point. What's that?
And then I don't see any place for him.
Well, I was thinking, like, do a rumour going around about them starting, like, a Star Wars love film, and maybe we could have Mace Windu as a sort of character in that who's being hunted by Darth Vader. Like, maybe not as a romantic interest, but maybe, like, as just another sort of prisoner or something who escapes with two lover protagonists.
I mean, there is obviously a place for him potentially in the Obi-Wan standalone.
Even still, though, like, if they're going to do an Obi-Wan standalone, what's that going to be? Because he's just chilling out on Tatooine, presumably, for the most part.
Presumably.
Or maybe he's Avengers with Qui-Gon, like when he spent that year in Mandalore.
Yeah.
Won't mind that.
Could be that, you know, if Mace Windu did survive, he did survive, he gets back in touch with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they buttle off to go and avenge all the Jedi or something along those lines.
Yeah, but avenging stuff isn't really in the Jedi way, is it?
That's true, but that's where we get onto the whole grey thing again, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe he's conflicted, but even still, like, it's a bit murky and hard. It's a hard sell, isn't it? Mace, like, just bringing back Mace Windu in any capacity, because it does sort of cheapen all the deaths. Every time you bring a character back, you cheapen every death that happens in the film. It's like Darth Maul coming back cheapened that death.
Yeah,
definitely, because it's just like, oh, so anybody can come back now. We're all like, let's wait for Palpatine to show up again.
And you're hoping Han will come back.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
He's literally been killed in the most decisive way of any character in the Star Wars trilogy, I feel.
Yeah, I would rather they didn't, and I'm pretty certain that the fact...
Is this Han or Mace?
Han Solo, yeah. I'm pretty certain.
Oh, we got sidetracked, didn't we?
Yeah, so I'm pretty certain that he won't, because, you know, there's only one reason Harrison Ford came back to do that film, and that was so that they would kill him off.
Oh.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there was that as well. They didn't do too badly out of it, but yeah, killing him off was the main thing, I think.
So, as for general consensus here, Mace Windu dead for good, or maybe bring him back in a small way in a film? Like, it's a tough sell bringing back anything from the prequel era. To be honest.
I think bring him in as part of another film. No. Standalone, maybe.
Half a fun. No, you're crapping all over the idea of a standalone.
I'm sorry, he's either dead or he's gone into exile. That's the only way I can see.
And if he is in exile, is he all messed up?
He's very bad.
So what's he doing in exile? Just waiting to die, or
Possibly he could be doing what Yoda did, because Yoda went into exile after the fall of the Jedi Temple, didn't he?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could he not have done the same? Because he failed in bringing down the Sith.
Yeah, he could, but also at the same way, you've got to imagine he's in Coruscant. He's just been lightning. He's fallen several stories. Even if he can use the Force to stop him from, like, hitting the ground with such impact, I can't imagine he's getting out of that without, like, at least breaking his legs up to, like, just... He's never walking again, let's put it that way.
Cybernetic wang discussion.
I mean, you could potentially create out of the three characters who went into exile the most kind of boring Godfather 2 style Star Wars story. Parallel threads of all three characters and their making of soup on whichever planet they're inhabiting from now on. So, yeah, it has problems.
At least
about seagulls.
Seagulls? Why?
That's that song, isn't it?
It's a song.
Oh, so a flock of seagulls, right? Okay, yeah.
No, but
No. All right. Never mind.
It's that bad lip reading of Yoda.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I totally missed that. Let us know what you think about Mace Windu. Bring him back, or is he just dead?
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu. Look through the Mace window and
Do you
tell
know
us
what?
if Mace Windu will be back.
While recording that segment, I said window so many times. It's so hard not to say when like under pressure.
Okay, we just love to create new segments every week on Force Talk, a Star Wars podcast. So we're basically going to be
talking Sith.
We're going to be talking Sith right
Which is
now.
an anagram. Work it out.
Exactly. So Nick, you discovered a clip of George Lucas at was it a graduation or
Something like that. Let's play it. Boom.
Of one thing I discovered along the way is that several speakers up here have talked about happiness, and I've discovered along the way that happiness, you live in two worlds here. Happiness is pleasure, and happiness is joy. It can be either one. You add them up, and it sort of falls under the uber category of happiness. Pleasure is short-lived. It lasts an hour, lasts a minute, lasts a month, and it peaks and then goes down. It peaks very high. But the next time you want to get that same peak, you have to do it twice as much. It's like drugs. You have to keep doing it because it insulates itself, no matter what it is. Whether you're shopping, whether you're, engaged in any other kind of pleasure, that all has the same quality about it. On the other hand is joy, and joy is the thing that doesn't go as high as pleasure in terms of your emotional reaction, but it stays with you. Joy is something you can recall. Pleasure you can't. So the secret is that even though it's not as intense as the pleasure, the joy will last you a lot longer. And people who get the pleasure, they keep saying, well, if I can just get richer and get more cars, you'll never relive the moment you got your first car. That's it. That's the highest peak. Yes, you can get 3 Ferraris and a new Gulfstream jet, and maybe you'll get close. But you have to keep going. And eventually you run out. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. So if you're trying to sustain that level of peak pleasure, you're doomed. It's a very American idea, but it just can't happen. You just let it go. Peak, great. Pleasure is fun. It's great. But you can't keep it going forever. Just accept the fact that it's here and it's gone. And maybe again it'll come back and you'll get to do it again. Joy lasts forever. Pleasure is purely self-centered. It's all about your pleasure. It's about you. It's a selfish, self-centered emotion that's created by a self-centered motive of greed. Joy is compassion. Joy is giving yourself to somebody else or something else. And it's a kind of thing that is, in its subtlety and lowness, much more powerful than pleasure. If you get hung up on pleasure, you're doomed. If you pursue joy, you will find everlasting happiness. So with that, I'm gone. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, so Georgie boy Lucas giving us the word there.
Later on in the clip, he does talk about how basically the whole happiness is joy and sadness is pleasure, or like greed is pleasure. Mm-hmm. He basically equates that to how like joy is the light side of the Force and Jedi's, and greed and pleasure is the dark side. So the argument that I want to sort of bring up is the introduction of grey Jedi's just completely crapping all over everything that George Lucas has ever tried to set up in Star Wars? Because it's an interesting point. He's not got his hands on it anymore, so the whole theology that he brought to it is now essentially out of the window. It's up to Pablo Hidalgo to sort of figure out what he wants to do with it. So, is this the way to go in, and are they getting it wrong, is what I want to bring up.
Well, first of all, just so you can like school me, because I know you know a little bit about it, or well, a hell of a lot more about it. The whole Bendu idea, where was this like first introduced? Like, was this an expanded universe idea before?
I think there's always been in the expanded universe an idea. Like I don't think they've ever like. I think Bendu is a name that came about fairly recently, but
right.
But Grey Jedi started from the Old Republic days. Like there was the Grey Paladins, the
Right.
Imperial Jedi's, Imperial Knights. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I meant. The Grey Jedi, but they've just recently started referring to it as Bendu
in Rebels.
In Rebels.
I'm the bit in between.
Right. Okay. So, so presumably, does that mean that if it was in Rebels, then George Lucas may have known about that being an arc?
Well, how old's
Or
the
not?
clip? How old is that?
I think we're going.
It looks pretty recent.
I think it's a few years old.
He doesn't
now.
age.
Yeah, he really doesn't. Like he's basically looked like this since 1999, hasn't he? so to
Just
try
the hair
and,
went fully white, and then he just kind of looks the same.
Same glasses, same shirt.
But what I mean is, like, you know, if he knew he was going to let it go, you know, he was letting the you know, the whole Star Wars will go, then was he happy for them to then expand that idea? And he's made his point about what the light side and the dark side is, or they've just, you know, taken that idea and ran with it.
I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible. That video is 6 years old, so that's before Rebels was about.
Right.
So
Before Rebels were even a twinkle.
Mm-hmm.
Then.
Yeah.
a twinkle in the milkman's eye.
Do we think that's maybe what Jar Jar Binks ended up doing then? after he destroyed the whole government.
Well, we know he was a clown for a bit, and what he ended up doing at night isn't really discovered or discussed much in Aftermath.
Thank God. So, I mean, it's difficult because, like you're saying, he's discussing that 6 years ago, it's before Rebels. So, and you have to assume that maybe he had a small part of the whole Rebel things.
Yeah, right.
Starting out because he was working with Dave Filoni, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Previously to that, so.
It's not, it doesn't really bother me so much that it's a thing in Rebels because it's not really so consequential to the main story thread.
Yeah.
My real worry is if they're bringing it into the sequel trilogy and Luke and maybe Rey are going down this Grey Jedi route, does that really muddy the waters of what George Lucas was trying to do? We even know that Mark Hamill fundamentally disagrees with what Rian Johnson was doing with the character of Luke Skywalker, and we've got that clip to play. So, boom!
When I read 8, I told Ryan, I fundamentally disagree with virtually everything you've decided about my character. But, you know, other than that, I can't really describe more, but it was as shocking to me to read what Ryan had written as I'm sure it will be for the audience.
Do you make a turn to the dark side? Is that possible?
It's possible. Anything's possible. You know what happened? I read one theory and I said to Ryan, I said, this is the one I want to do. And it was...
Did you have a say in it?
No.
So there you have it.
Strong words from the Hamill.
Exactly. So we're seeing even he's uncomfortable with the way that at least the character of Luke Skywalker is going. So does this sort of point us in a direction that is like going really far from what George Lucas was originally trying to do in the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy to some regard, because you got the light and dark very clearly defined in both films, and now we're getting an in-between, maybe. I think that's pretty much the way it's going, isn't it, in the sequel trilogy. So,
I mean, in a sense, yeah, it does kind of crap on what his ideas were initially, but, you know, can we be fairly sure that that might have been the case anyway, because you know, he did step away from it, and he did, you know, give the producers whatever his basic outlines for what 7, 8, and 9 were going to be, and they went, "That's very nice, George. We're just gonna put that on the fridge."
So do you think Sarah that dare's sticking to the rough outline at least?
Yeah, the rough outline, but now they're bringing an actual balance to the Force, which is what you really wanted in the prequels. The Chosen One bringing balance to the Force, so possibly was Rey the Chosen One?
Possibly.
Just to freak everyone out.
I mean, we still don't know what the hell Rey is, or who she is, or anything like that, so it's potential.
She's Daisy Ridley.
Well,
Yeah,
we know that much.
but I mean, it is interesting because, you know, Hamill has said he kind of disagreed with. Well, he didn't disagree, but he was just like constantly disappointed as he was reading the script for The Force Awakens, because he was like he was going, and I'm gonna come in now. Like, I think his favorite bit was like when you know, the lightsaber ends up in the snow and then you see it shaking, and he was like, "Okay, here I come."
I actually genuinely thought that was going to be him there as well. I think I would have been a bit Doctor Who-y and sort of like a bit cheap in a way, but even still, I wouldn't have minded that.
Yeah.
And we're getting a bit off topic.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is he, you know, he was disappointed with that. He fundamentally disagrees with the way his character has been painted in the new film, in The Last Jedi. So, from that, we must draw that, well, either it disagrees with what his idea of was going to be for Luke Skywalker after that, or the fact that he is now a lot darker than we expect him to be.
That's the thing. What worries me is that we're either going to be sort of, like, the prequel trilogy is very clearly sort of documenting the tragic fall of a character, and then for the original trilogy, the redemption of the character. So in this sequel trilogy, if the prior 6 films were about Anakin, where does it go from here? And are we just going to start treading old ground of redemption? Like, I hope Kylo Ren isn't just going to get redeemed at the end, because that would be boring. I have my reservations and concerns where the sort of new trilogy is going, but I also trust that they're going to do a good job, hopefully.
I mean, would you like to see this Grey Jedi idea expanded rather than just kind of this tried and tested? I mean, it makes sense because obviously, you know, they have repeatedly failed over and over again, so it's like the Jedi do need to try something different in order to be successful. And I think it could potentially make for much more interesting characterization, because you know, the problem has always been the problem's never really been with the Sith, the bad guys in Star Wars. It's always been with the Jedi, really, because they're so kind of stoic and stuff like that
they can't have fun.
Yeah, they don't make for a very interesting, like, in some regards, they don't make for a very interesting character.
Like if you tell a child it can't do something, it's going to want to do it even more.
Yeah.
Like Anakin with sex.
Yeah. Like Anakin's.
I mean, it's like, I'm a chosen one, I should be able to bang. It's not fair.
Cybernetic wang.
Maybe.
Catholicism with lightsabers, I don't know.
Well, for where you were talking about for Jedi and like for sort of rebranding of for Jedi, it was making me think like Labour and New Labour. Like, just creating slightly more towards the dark side to get in.
Are you going to start putting the pictures up of Jeremy Corbyn as Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to do politics on this show, especially because of the fact that, you know, my news feed is basically like a party political broadcast for the Labour Party at the moment.
Please stop now.
Anyway, so we'll leave it there anyway. But yeah, I mean, let us know what you think. Do you think? I mean, do you agree with? Well, we don't know that you can fully agree with
You'd
Mark,
have to see off
with Mark Hamill yet, but do you at least agree with him about The Force Awakens and the way Luke Skywalker's brought in? Do you want to see Grey Jedis, or do you want to stick with the tried and tested Styles. And failed. Let us know what you think. And here's another interview from Star Wars Fan Fun Day and my chat with Jimmy V, aka the new R2D2. Beep beep. Okay, I'm sat here with Jimmy V at Star Wars Fan Fun Day, Day 2. And before Jimmy was even doing Star Wars, he's got a long and varied career. He's done Doctor Who, Sarah Jane Chronicles,
Pan the movie.
Pan.
Yeah.
How did you get into acting in the first instance?
I started way back in early days as a stunt guy for small people and children, you know what I mean? And it just progressed from there, from stunt guy to TV commercials, and then moved on to parts and films, and then from there it went to Doctor Who, and then it's never stopped since there.
Brilliant. So, and how was the Pan movie? Because you were effectively Hugh Jackman's co-star in that.
Yeah, sidekick to Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good couple of months filming. It was a good laugh, you know. Everybody got on well.
Yeah. Seems like a great guy. He comes across well.
Yeah.
So then transition, of course, into being the new R2D2.
Uh-huh.
And I believe, well, I assume you knew Kenny anyway from conventions.
Yeah, we knew Kenny from other. I had worked with Kenny on numerous films and pantomimes, things like that. So
yeah,
we knew him well. You know what I mean?
So when it came to the point that you were going to transition over when you were working on The Force Awakens, what advice did Kenny have for you?
I knew most of the stuff because we used to talk about things over the years that we'd worked together, and it was just a case of like, if you're going to do it, do this, do that. You know what I mean? How to stay like that, and little trade secrets that you don't want to give away. You know?
Okay. Well, we don't want to know fully the inner workings of R2D2, but did they put the pictures inside for you this time? Or?
No. No, I never kept any of his either.
So you did a fair bit on Force Awakens then?
Yeah, well, Kenny was there as consultant, so...
Sorry?
Kenny was there as a consultant, you know.
Right, okay.
So he was telling us what was what. Yeah.
Directing you on set? Okay, great. And obviously you've just done The Last Jedi, which we can't talk about just yet.
Can't talk about. December the 15th. Yeah.
December the 15th, we look forward to it coming out. So thanks very much for chatting with us, Jimmy.
No problem, Matt.
Nice one.
Cheers.
And now we're going to dip back into some of the interviews that we recorded at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. And as you know, there's just 3 of us here this time. Because Michael's on his holidays, showing off how vastly wealthy he is. When he's not doing his day job, he's sitting
about in budgie smugglers,
swanning about in budgie smugglers. See
legs.
the picture, and sipping cocktails and all that stuff. But he did do one of the interviews at Star Wars Fan Fun Day. So here is Michael having a chat with Taylor Gray, aka
Ezra Bridger.
Right, well, I'm here with Taylor Gray from Rebels. We're at Star Wars Fan Weekend. So, just got a few questions for you. That's
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, first of all, I just want to know how you actually got into Rebels, how you got the role of Ezra, because obviously you worked as an actor before on Bucket and Skinner and a few other shows. So,
I got the script and sides from my agent, my theatrical agent, the way I would anything else. But it was a little weirder because they asked me to go record it in a closet.
Right.
And so I went into a closet, read all the lines, sent in the tape, and didn't hear anything for like a month.
Right.
A month later, they asked me to go to the studio, and I recorded with Dave and the producers, still unaware that it was Star Wars.
Yes.
And a week later, I got a call, you got the gig, and it's Star Wars, which was amazing.
Amazed, yeah. And did you know what the role was? Did you know it was going to be Ezra or training Jedi?
I knew they said it. Once I got the role, they told me it was going to be the new, they were like, it's the lead of the show. That's one thing we know. And he's going to become, or he has, what they said is, they said he has innate abilities. And in Star Wars, you're like, oh, well, that's the Force.
Yeah.
And so we quickly figured out he's a Jedi.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what's the process when you record an episode? Do you just get given the lines for that episode, like say the actors who in the films, or do you get to read through the whole episode?
We get the whole script. Although at times, if there are episodes that are big episodes, like a finale, and we're not certain actors, or we are not in a page or two, we won't get those pages for big episodes. But otherwise, if we're in it, we get the whole script.
Yeah. So is it a surprise for you when you actually see the finished
finales?
product?
Yeah, like season 4 finale, I don't even know what the last handful of pages are.
Right, it's amazing. So what is it like for you? What's it like for you when you see an episode? You're quite often surprised when you actually see the animation.
Yeah, I need to see more. They screen it for us at the Disney building in LA, which is like watching it in a movie theater. So the sound is amazing, and that's the best way to watch it. I miss some here and there. I always have it recorded on my TV at home. on my TV at home.
Yeah.
But it's always fun to watch it because I don't see any of it. We do the voice, and then next thing you know, there's all this production behind it, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it's great. And you get a lot of guidance from Dave Filoni.
Oh yeah, he's an incredible director.
Yeah, it's cool. So what's your favourite episode of Rebels? Is it one we've seen or one in season 4?
Yeah, probably the first episode we ever did. That's nostalgic and a favourite of mine. The Twin Sons was really cool, and then the season 2 finale with Maul and with Maul and then Vader and Ahsoka. All of that I thought was amazing.
Cool. And who's your, obviously not Ezra Bridger, who's your favourite character in Rebels? If you
in Rebels, I'd say the Bendu.
The Bendu, yeah.
Yeah, I
cool.
really like the Bendu. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And just last question. Now, obviously, Rebels is coming to an end at season 4. What's next for you? Have you got any other?
Yeah, I just started on a new television series in the U.S. We shot for 2 months. I actually wrapped this last week. It's called In the Vault, and it's far removed from Star Wars. It's like college kids or university, as you guys would have it, in a dorm room. And it's like a murder mystery kind of show.
Sounds cool.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Yeah.
And, do you think you'll be coming back to the Star Wars universe in the future?
I hope so. I definitely hope so.
So do we.
Yeah, amazing.
Great. Well, thanks very much.
Awesome.
Nice
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Taylor.
You got it.
And that brings to a close another Force Talk, a Star Wars podcast.
We'll miss you.
Don't forget, if there's anything else you would like to suggest us covering, talking about, or generally taking the mickey out of. We don't take the mickey out of Star Wars. Star Wars is sacred.
We take the mickey out of Nick, that's all.
Yeah, we do that. Michael will be... And Michael.
Definitely Michael.
Especially since he wasn't here this week. He'll be back next week, so we'll be back to the big 4 rather than the big 3 that we've been today. But if you'd like to make any suggestions to us, drop us a line on Facebook at SW Force Talk, on Twitter at SW Force Talk. You can also be really hipstery and find us on Instagram as well. So, until next time.
Force Talk. That's not a catchphrase, is it?
Force yourself. May the Force be with you.